Welcome to UX Banter Season 7, where design leaders, innovators, and changemakers share their stories, insights, and passion for human centered experiences. This season, we are exploring AI driven design, inclusive UX, enterprise strategy, and the evolving role of designers in a rapidly changing world. I'm your host, Dushyant Kanungo. This podcast is presented by Galaxy UX Studio and powered by Galaxy Weblinks, an Inc. 5000 company.
Hello, and welcome to another episode of the UX Banter podcast. This is our last season so far that we have done fun on the UX Banter side of things. This is one of the most enjoyable things that I've done in my career. But now I think it is time that we look for new things in life to do. And with that thought in mind, don't worry, we are not going to cut corners because today we are chatting with someone who has spent over 20 years designing products across AI, SaaS, XR, and gaming. He knows for bringing clarity to complex problems and creating experiences that balance strong design thinking with real business impact. He has worked across fast-paced teams and early-stage environments, helping products grow from idea to execution. Joining us today is Senior UX Product Designer at Nomadics, Greg Herboek. Welcome, Greg, to the show.
Thank you. I'm happy to be here. I appreciate it.
So, how are things? How is life? What are the things which are very exciting, which are going on these days?
Yeah, the exciting frontier obviously is the big AI push within everything we're doing today. And I'm constantly fueled and energized by these emerging technologies and the exciting new channels and pathways to not only work, but to, carry out through life.
So, how was the journey have been for you? Where did you start? How did you become the design leader that you are today?
Uh, my journey is maybe more unique than some others. The work that I've done has taken me around the world to meet some of the most incredibly talented and very unique and special individuals. I think the common thread that I've learned through my journey is, all these like-minded people, regardless of where we are, we share common interests with these sort of emerging technologies and new frontiers. My journey started I guess in grade school. I've always had a like and a focus on design and visuals as a core sort of foundation to my design methodologies. But yes, I started at art school in Phoenix, Arizona. And there, I think it was like a crash course in working in the industry. It was, I believe, less like a college and a university and more like just going to work and starting to really learn that there's a business behind art and design. And that really fueled me, and it motivated me to my next steps, which I joined a video game studio. A friend of mine from art university ended up getting hired at a game studio, and I went out to visit him. And while I was visiting him, I asked him if I could come by and see the studio. I came with my portfolio in hand, ready to go. And yeah, I walked into the door and I provided my portfolio and I shared my enthusiasm. At that point, I even said I was happy and willing to work for free on video games just to start my career. And by the time I returned home in Texas from California, I got the call that they would like to make me an offer for employment there. I circled back to my friend and said, "Thank you so much for opening the door." And he said, "What do you mean? I didn't open the door. You kicked it down." So I guess he meant in positive terms that I kind of just went in there and did it. And I appreciate that. And following that throughout my career, and common thread has been these emerging technologies and kind of pushing new frontiers, going from video games and emerging new capabilities in there and looking into new products and new designs. I was kind of always at the frontier of problem solving there. So coming up with new demos and new product types, which brought me into smartphone gaming in the early 2003 time frame. And there we focused heavily on 3D on mobile. So I helped kind of pioneer casual 3D gaming in mobile. That work took me to Moscow, Russia, where I became a creative director and oversaw over 6 games in development at the same time and helped build up the studio from about 50 people to I think about 250 when I left. My responsibility was the design department, mostly the art side. Sorry, I
Wow.
keep going with it. I don't know if you want me to stop or
No, this is perfect, actually. So now we are going to have to talk about the one topic that I think which was fascinating to me when we first met and started talking. So a Texas person who studied in Arizona and ended up in Bosco. How was that like? For just life experiences sake, that must be something.
it was I think growing up in Texas, it's such a big state and I grew up in Austin and such a beautiful, lovely place to grow up and live. I just wanted to understand what was beyond the borders of Texas. And having grown up in Texas, it takes so long just to get outside of Texas. So up until the point of going to Moscow, I really had never left the United States. And that was my first trip really overseas. I partnered with one of my colleagues who was French at the time, and he walked me through the Moscow streets and kind of coached me through just my arrival and how to adapt to the culture. And I fell in love with it instantly. And I think for me, it was this new frontier, new possibilities. And I think really that's a motivator. It's a component of creativity. Having new experiences and discovering new things really, I think, took me to the next level in my career. And while I was there, I was just amazed at how motivated and how talented everyone in the studio was at that gaming studio at the time, and how the common thread that brought us together, the communication, was through the software, the games that we were building at the time. My broken English or my broken Russian was never enough to be, a conversational Russian. While I was there, I can get around, but I think the work is how we spoke. That was the medium for our conversations and how we arrived at, the common ground and the understanding, if that makes sense.
It does perfectly. So your career spans gaming, VR, SaaS, and cybersecurity. What skills do you think that carried over across all of these industries? And which one mattered most as you move into leadership?
Great question. I think common thread that's taken me through all of these technologies is just a willingness to learn and an endless curiosity to try new things. I worked with a lot of specialists within the certain fields, and I always wanted to take on and attempt new design challenges beyond my experience, beyond my wheelhouse. So I've done VR, AR, where there is no more screen sizes. There's no more screen classes in front of you. And now you're doing spatial UI. And I'm fueled and motivated by all of those challenges. So I think the common thread there again is this emerging technologies along with this endless curiosity to take things to this next level.
You just talked about this work, having the work experience with specialists, but you described yourself as a generalist. In today's world of deep specialization, why do you think being a generalist is actually an advantage?
Yeah, a great question. I think being a generalist in a startup environment where I feel like my skills are the most useful really helps out kind of filling in gaps and wearing a lot of different hats. As I've worked with different companies and products have built out and become more of a functional software as a service, there's a transitional period in there to go from being more of a generalist to specializing in different areas. And normally in that transition, I switch on to specializing more in management to help oversee and orchestrate the bigger picture, the bigger vision for product development. So I guess I do wear multiple hats. I'm a generalist term, and I can be a specialist on projects and environments when needed.
All right. So, talking of hats, the Texas cowboy hat must be worn and shuffled all the time. So this is the fun time to talk to you about that. What is your one Texas habit that you have carried throughout your life?
Yeah, I've had some fun conversations about similar topics around the world. Some of my colleagues said the more comfortable or more excited I get, the bigger my belt buckle would grow. And I think that they're kind of poking jabs at me and joking around that they can hear more of my accent sort of come out when I'm more relaxed and more of a comfortable environment. I think that's maybe a big part of it, if that answers your question, or
Yep, it
take
does.
another swing.
What is your favorite go-to pastime?
That's another great one. I have young kids, so they pretty much consume me in all of my time. My favorite pastime is spending the time with them outdoors and working with them, watching them learn new things, new sports. We helped coach T-ball, and we're just starting another season this year with that.
So dinosaurs.
Actually, we have both of my children. One focuses more on the robotics side. We're doing a lot of these snap circuits, which is kind of electrical engineering. And my youngest, he's really into dinos and monster trucks. So there's
So
really a
both.
fun balance. Yeah, there's a fun balance at this house.
All right. So what is your favorite YouTube channel that you always go to?
Another great question. I think most recently I landed on the Anthropic's responsible AI course, and I've been circling that space a lot. I think traditionally I focus a lot on the Figma updates and staying true to the Figma channel.
Window or ILC?
It depends. If it's an international flight, I prefer the window so I can kind of get a better snooze in. Taller person, so it's hard to get comfortable. But on a
Yep.
short flight, I prefer the aisle seat so I can just pop out and get off the plane.
What is the recipe that you cook the most?
Ooh, another great question. I don't cook that often, but traditionally the one that I loved to cook the most was spaghetti and the sauce. I think I grew up watching maybe too many movies and they would spend a lot of time making the spaghetti sauce. And so I grew up wondering, maybe I could try that. I actually learned that in my time in Moscow, trying to find the ingredients and at the store. Found, spending my weekends cooking was a favorable pastime.
No barbecue then?
No barbecue. I'm surrounded by so much barbecue. It's always just a short stop away. So it's wonderful.
Amazing. Always there. Okay. Any book that you can recommend to us, to our listeners?
Yeah, the book that I just finished was Ikigai.
Ikigai.
Ikigai, the Japanese book about a way of life. And I think for me, especially at this time with AI and the new frontiers, that type of book means a lot to me about sort of the purpose in life and the right trajectory. And I think coming off of some other books and trying to summarize my interest and passion within design, I kind of look at it as like the will of design. Like that's really what kind of keeps me motivated and keeps me going. And I thought the book Ikigai was kind of a different take on that balance.
That is absolutely, I think, one of the interesting items and things which are going on around us. So you are actively using AI in your design workflow. So what parts of design does AI genuinely improve today, and where does human judgment still matters the most?
Another great question. I'm working to kind of pioneer or institute design best practices with AI with the work that I'm currently doing today. And I've done, a bunch of research on where it works and where it doesn't. And I've done a lot of personal sort of work in exploring that pathway as well, that frontier. And where I find it best is to explore new ideas rapidly, especially on the interaction layer. It's a lot of fun to be able to capture a lot of research on a topic and then spin that up into a working prototype within a matter of a few minutes, just to kind of give a new perspective of how to approach various design challenges and product focus requirements.
So while we can work on multiple projects at once, and with AI now it is very fast. Now, results from one particular exercise to another, we can just work a lot of things in parallel and quickly. But then we are not computers. The designers, they have to switch context constantly from one project to another. The idea of one project, you can't just overlap two things together. So in that case, we become the bottlenecks because we cannot just process two things at once as humans. So is that a capacity or capability of humans that comes in the way? And do you think that as humans and designers, do you think that is one of the most required and desired skill to have, to be able to multitask at the same time, not running the risk of burnout?
That's a great question. And I think, cognitive overload is, it's a part of the work that we do every day. And on our end as well, it's important to stay focused and stay, what's the word I'm looking for? I guess focused again. Stay, give it our utmost attention on one task at a time. I think for enough period of time to solve that challenge or problem, I think that AI gives us new possibilities, especially in design, to run agents in parallel. So while I might have time boxed a specific task for the next 3 hours, I can actually have AI working for me in the background to do tasks that I'm working towards later on in the day. So AI could be fetching me research and capturing content for a completely different project at the time, as well as AI agents could be working in the background to work through prototypes or prompts that had maybe been added in before, or more automation built into it where they're doing multiple steps in the background. And so I think the AI helps humans multitask with focus.
AI on one hand, and that multicultural experiences on the other. There must have been some cases, while with the wide experience of this global knowledge that you carry, what's one lesson from your global experiences that directly change how you design or communicate?
One direct experience. There's a lot. I guess I could pinpoint a few. I don't want to sound culturally insensitive, though, to some of the groups.
That's okay. See, this is bantering. We are saying that nobody is responsible. Um, yeah, you know what? Once I said something, and then my editing team came back to me and saying that you are running a risk to getting sued by Microsoft. And it was something to do with that entire server shutdown and planes grounding in London. This will be edited out, don't worry. So I said something that it is Microsoft, and then they said that we have a risk here. I said, okay, let there be the guy, a podcaster who got sued by Microsoft. I'm okay with that. All right. So we can start.
I think what I learned most is it's a very humbling experience to meet such world renowned, talented people, such interesting individuals, and people that are capable of so many things that I never thought would be possible. And I think that to me was the most influential takeaway that I have from my international work, is working with these highly skilled people. It was a truly humbling experience, and I'm ever grateful for the time that I've, spent with them. If that makes sense.
That's a very diplomatic answer to begin with. But here's the thing. In When I work with US audience, I know they'll say what is on their mind. It's more often than not you get that clear answer, but in so many words, they would try to explain the concept that what do they want. Whereas if you go to Britain, UK, it's really hard. You just need to have that British translator somewhere in the middle, that even though they are saying English, but it may not what they are saying, and it could mean completely the opposite. And it's just the wordplay and the cultural thing. Now you go to Europe, and the answers become yes, no, and that's it. You need to frame the reasoning and the logic and the explanation around it. Indians, we don't say no. We just say, yeah, we will try. We can give it a shot. We'll see how it happens. And then it ends disastrously more often than not. So this is where you have to read the cultures between the lines. And I'm not sure what happens with Russia because I have no idea. But what do you think is like? I mean, the other examples are to be taken in context.
I think it again goes back to a couple moments in my past working internationally. And in one case, I was sitting right alongside a natively French speaking individual, and we were both communicating in English and we were using the same words and talking about the same subject. But it took me a little while to realize that we were both actually talking about two different things and we're speaking the same language. We're sitting right next to each other. And yeah, it wasn't until I kind of realized looking at the work that what we were talking about was different. And I think going back into my experience working alongside individuals that, don't always have a clear language communication, the medium communicating with the work has always sort of the precedence. And that's the one language that all of us could align on and understand. Like math, for example, numbers. We can all build on that together regardless of what languages we speak. So I think within the products, it's the materialization of entertainment and intuitive user experiences that can be solved without needing words at all.
So last thing that I have for today is you spend a lot of time mentoring designers. What is the biggest mistake you see early career designers making and how they can future-proof their careers?
At this point, I think it's all about embracing the wave of this AI that's coming and the new frontiers. And I'm concerned about individuals that might be camping out, unwilling to try or work towards those solutions. I myself have tried to jump right into it head first and not always get the results that I want, but kind of power through it. And so I guess I would encourage the younger generation to embrace it. And I think that goes to say for the older generation that maybe is more fine tuned or specialized in certain tools, some of those tools might become obsolete within the next months to years. And just staying adaptable and flexible towards the new frontiers, I think would be my current.
Yeah, absolutely. Texas, this is the Shankanungo with Greg, and I love that city. I've been there many times with the cultural heritage and everything which comes in the way, and I will be there next month probably. Greg, be ready to host. And with that, I would say this is the time when we thank Greg for joining us for the conversation today.
Excellent. Thank you so much for your time. I'm really glad to be here, and I look forward to seeing you out here in Austin, Texas. We have South by Southwest setting up right now, so hopefully you'll be there for that. Anytime, you're more than welcome. We have a empty space for you, so you're always welcome to stop by. I would appreciate it, and maybe we'll see you out there at Lake Travis, out on the water sometime as well.
Absolutely. Thank you for joining, Greg. And just like all the beautiful journeys have to come to an end, sadly, but not unhappily, I would say that this is the time that UX Banter takes a bow after 7 seasons and about 75 episodes. This is a time when we say upward and onward to new pastures to explore. And with better ideas, new conversation, and new means of life, we will return, I will return to talk more about UX, maybe in a different direction, maybe in a different dimension, but we will stay connected. So thank you to everybody who has been part of our long and beautiful journey so far. I say goodbye, and that's it from the UX Banter podcast.